My name is Dr. Prayag Kini. I
I think they're
represent
playing
the
it.
Department
Okay.
of Cardiology at Sri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Medical Sciences, Whitefield, Bangalore. Aorta ventricular tunnels are a rarity in pediatric practice. Case reports and case series talk about aorto LV tunnel that is more common, but aorto RV and aorto RV outflow tract tunnels are an extremely uncommon entity. Aortoventricular tunnels are defined as presence of extracardiac channels that connect the ascending aorta above the sinotubular junction to the cavity of the left or the right ventricle. Among the ALVT and the ARVT, the ARVT is much rarer, and till 2016 I found out that only 18 cases of ARVT have been reported thus far in English literature. A differential diagnosis of this malformation clinically would include VSD aortic regurg, aortopulmonary window, coronary artery fistula, PDA, and RSOVA. The difference essentially between an RSOVA and ARVT, because they look really similar on echo and even clinically, is that in the case of an RSOV, the vascular orifice, the proximal end of the channel as such, would lie in a sinus of an aortic valve, and it runs outside the heart between the muscular subpulmonary infundibulum and the aortic valva sinus. Whereas in ARVT, it comes from the muscularis of the aorta itself, and then distally it ends into one of the two ventricles, LVT or ARVT, as may be the case. The possible anomalies of a coronary anatomy should also be kept in mind, because one should be cognizant of where the ostium is, particularly when we are planning a therapeutic strategy, particularly a device closure. As mentioned earlier, embryology for the AP window would be a reflection of the failure of closure of the embryonic aortopulmonary foramen. Whereas in the case of AP tunnels, one should recognize that there are cushions here, the proximal part of the cushions and the distal part of the cushions, which are actually abnormally uh, involved in this particular formation. The proximal part forms a subpulmonary infundibulum. The distal part excavates to form the sinuses and the arterial valves. Their leaflets are formed by the distal part of the cushion, while the middle part of the cushion is what essentially undergoes an abnormal development, leading to the formation of a aorto RV or an aorto LV tunnel. Other putative mechanisms which have been hypothesized but never proven is that some authors believe it's a congenital defect of the elastic lamina of the aorta itself, yet some other authors believe it's a mesocardiac cystic structure which forms abnormally at the fifth aortic arch during intrauterine development. Some other authors say that it's a supravalvular aneurysmal dilatation itself of the primitive aorta, while some yet other authors say that it's an intrauterine rupture of the sinus of Valsalva aneurysm. None of these mechanisms have been actually proven. They're all hypotheses, and they have not been individually mentioned in any literature as one being more important or more causative than the other. Some other authors believe that it's more than one mechanism also at work. We had a patient who had presented to us with history of recurrent respiratory tract infections and mild exertional dyspnea for about 9 months to a year prior to presenting to us. This child weighed 23 kilos and she was 9-year old. Echocardiography had shown a continuous flow from the aorta above the right coronary sinus, not from the sinus, above it, directly to the right ventricle. I'll show the echo images as we go along. The biventricular function was normal. There was moderate LV dilatation. She had been diagnosed as an RSOVA elsewhere, but we thought, considering the age of the child, it seemed that she was too young for this diagnosis. The initial impression was very much like an RSOVA to the RV. It looked very much like there was a continuous flow from coming from the RCS, but it was not really from the sinus, and there was no dilatation as well. You can see that there is no dilatation at all of the right coronary sinus, and the track here seems to be coming out of it to better delineate it. None of the images as I go along, you can see that, would show any sinus dilatation at all, and there was this track that was coming outside of the aorta from the aortic muscularis, that is directly into the RV. Again here at 100 degrees, one can see that there is this track which is coming directly from aorta here, again aorta to the RV. There was clearly a systemic pressure across this jet, so there was a aorta to the right ventricular connection, systemic to the pulmonary connection, and here again one can see the track here. This is in the inflow outflow view, 45 degrees. One can see clearly that there is no sinus dilatation here. There is this track again which I mentioned, again also seen in the 135 degrees. Again showing the track. LV dilatation was about moderate, one could mention, and there was a bit of MR, mild MR. The RV systolic pressure was around 45 millimeters of mercury. Again here showing that there is no sinus dilatation at all. LV dilatation, mild MR as I mentioned, and RV-SPF around 40-45 millimeters of mercury. So moderate PAH was there. This child was taken up for a right heart cath study. Clearly there was a increase in the oxygen saturation at the RV level, a step up with a shunt of 2.25:1. Again clearly mandating some form of intervention for this child. Aortograms were done in the LAO RAV, which I will show in the next slide, clearly showing the fistulous communication from aorta starting superior to the RCA origin and draining into the RV. So this is the shunt. The shunt aortogram showed that there was this opacification of the RV here, and clearly there is some amount of like moderate LV dilatation. This is the shunt very clearly seen. You can see that it's
I
coming
think I'll
directly
show the
from
videos, PCSI, because I
left
don't
side
think
of
your
the
videos are
ventricle,
running.
and this track opens into the RV, opacifying the RV very well. The other important step was to delineate the RCA ostium, which we did here. One can see that it is away from the origin of the tunnel because that is not opacified here when the RCA ostium is being opacified. This was important because we were also planning a therapeutic strategy at this step. As usually happens, we took a AV loop as we do for any other shunt or a VSD for that matter. We have crossed from the systemic side, we have made an AV loop, and uh, in this step one can see that when we were trying to negotiate the sheath down from the exteriorized end into the across the tunnel into the aorta, there was quite a bit of tortuosity. There was a bit of struggle we had when we were railroading the sheet down, but eventually it made through across the tunnel. The next step was positioning the device. Important again, as I said, we had to be cognizant of the fact that we were near the RC ostium. We were injecting it with a pigtail and delineating it. We had taken an 8x6 cocoon duct occluder, which we tracked into the tunnel. Aortic end open first and then the pulmonary side end, and then keeping on injecting with a pigtail to make sure that we were not near the RC ostium, we eventually deployed the device. This was the deployed device, and there was minimal to no residual shunt. This was taken a minute after the device was deployed. Aorto-RV tunnels are extremely rare entities. This case is being presented both for the rarity of it and to put across the point that one RSOV must always be, if this is not the age group, usually if it's a little older, then RSOV does become a differential diagnosis, but in this age group we thought it was quite unlikely. We have to differentiate it again with imaging if possible, with any other form of imaging, CT or MR, or with TE, which can be done easily. It's also important to define the coronary course, which can be abnormal, or the takeoff, or the course of the coronary artery itself, and the ostial position while planning transcatheter closure, particularly because it's not like a surgical closure which is done under vision. And one should be cognizant also of the fact that you should try to leave no either a TR there or a residual shunt, because these are systemic to pulmonary connections and can end up with hemolysis, which can get very troublesome. And it should be both, if possible, echo guided and TE guided if it is allowed. Thank you.
If I'm allowed, PCSI, can I just show me one?
Thank you. No, we are